PSGL. George Horgan here and Jack Bennett. All the lights are currently lit here on track, and it is go, go, go!
Contact between the Mercedes teammates.
Donoso with a crafty manoeuvre up the inside. Masterclass from the Chilean.
Crucial championship points on offer here.
Do not count out Danny Berezne.
Longe has done the job. This is for the win between these two.
Freddie Rasmussen wins the United States Grand Prix.
Alfie Butcher wins for the first time ever. Lucas Blakely takes the championship. It's Barry Borman.
Jarno Opmeer is your champion.
And here we are. Welcome everyone and a very, very good evening. Welcome back here at PSGL PCF4, where tonight it's time for round 5 out of this 9 round long season. And we have settled in Spielberg, Austria, where Max, it is absolutely pouring down.
Hello everybody, pleasure to be back once again alongside the magnificent Myth, who is finally back after his hiatus for a couple of weeks. But yeah, it is raining very heavily here in Spielberg. Everybody onto the intermediate tyres, surprisingly, in these monsoon-esque conditions, which should really be using those extreme wets. But knowing the full wet tyre on this game, it doesn't actually help you in these types of conditions. It actually just slows you down. So yeah, everyone's going to be on the intermediates. It's going to be a very tricky qualifying session. It's just going to be all about building confidence. And Bogdan Moldovan's already hit the wall on the pit lane exit. But definitely a qualifying session where confidence and getting laps in is key. And by the end of the session, it's going to be last across the line. It's going to be your victor of this qualifying session for sure, as this track will constantly be improving.
Yeah, let's indeed straight to our race screen so we can see what is going on. We have 20 drivers tonight. I believe we have 2 stand-ins in the names of Jensen Rolson and Arjen Sanga. So 2 stand-ins in total, but we have a full grid of 20 drivers with, of course, our championship leader for Alpine, Louis Welch. He won last week out in China. More about that later, of course, but he has a fairly comfortable 12-point lead so far in the standings. But in the meantime, we're going to look at Igor Piasecki, because last time out when I was here in Brazil, he was doing an absolute masterclass until he got slapped with a post-race penalty that has sadly knocked him down a couple places. But here we go, on board with Igor. Max, take it away.
Right then, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this lap underway. Heading into turn 1, down to 4th gear, slowly just gently kiss the apex curb and use a very minimal amount of the exit curb. Of course, you don't really want to be on the curbs in these conditions because they'll spin you around. Very, very tricky to get the power down if you are on the curbs, or even to start braking, as you can see, up into turn 3 very early on the brakes. Car stopped and then back on the power is the main thing. A little bit of a slide, but still keeps the car in a straight line. Of course, it will only be a banker and a lap to find his feet. So as he now heads into the swashgold of turn 4, it's down to 3rd gear, slowly back on the power again. Of course, usually 4th gear in the dry. Of course, needing that little bit more rotation with that lower torque. And now through turn 5 we go, a little bit wide from the apex, taking that wider outside line as we head into turn 7. And for Igor, it's been a very nice lap so far. Just, of course, finding his feet, finding that limit. So he's not been too much on the limit. So he now heads into turn 9. Finally, into turn 10, a very short lap of the Red Bull Ring as he's coming up to the line. Eagle, what can he set? It's a 1 minute 11.884. And that is good enough for provisional pole position. Bogdan Moldovan a further 5 attempts behind, so struggling so far on the Williams, but of course with this track constantly going to be getting better and better. The dry line will slowly start to form, and I expect these drivers to certainly, at least, I would say, get into those low 1 minute 10s.
Yeah, let's see how quickly we're going to approach the 110s. Because here goes Stephen Vasso, beats Igor Piasecki with 12 thousandths of a second so far, as we now see Louis Welch make his way into the third sector, as Lucas Beisner and Oliver Knott almost half a second clear the entire field, a 111.3 for him, as we now see Louis Welch enter the final 2 corners. That's Rindt and the Red Bull Mobile Curve. There he comes through, a little slide on entry, but down to the finish line he goes, and he does put that car only 7th best with a 112.0, showing that these conditions out there are quite tricky, as we now watch Tim Turnimo go to the final corner. But what I noticed earlier on, Max, when we were watching Igor, is it seemed like he was taking more or less of a dry line. He was taking a lot of curbs, and to be honest, I'm not sure if that is your best bet when it's raining quite heavily.
No, it's not really what you want to be doing. You want to try to stay away from the curbs as much as possible. Getting the rear wheels, especially on those curbs, it really does make that car go out of control as Tom Roberts moves himself up into second place with a 1 minute 11.489. But yeah, it felt like Eagle. I really thought it was a mix of both. I mean, in that first and final sector, it really was the dry line. But in that mid sector, it was taking very wet lines, taking that wider line, try to find the grip of sorts. And that racing line it's not really predominant on this game, to say the least. But in any other game, that dry line will be so slick and so greasy that you don't actually want to be braking onto that corner. You sort of want to get your braking done, move back over to the racing line, then turn the car back in. So yeah, I saw a mix of both, and for Igor, it definitely showed why he was that little bit further off the pace. But of course, being the first driver out, you're slowly building that confidence in. You're not really sure on how the track is going to feel, as Daniel Gottschalk, 0 points Gottschalk, should I say, for this Grand Prix. He's just gone quickest for 11.0, just showing how much this track is ramping up already. But yeah, for Piasecki, it really was just finding his feet, and I think that really showed there that he wasn't all that confident on what lines to exactly take, and it was very much an experimental lap.
And here we have Damien Carrell coming towards the line. He lost a little bit of time in that last sector. We saw the sector time that we need to go for as we were watching Gottschalk when he went around that run. 49.3 in sector 2 is currently the time that we need to watch out for. Damien was 2/10 off of that, but when he crossed that finish line, that gap had increased a further 3/10, so it shows that Gottschalk definitely did a great final sector, as that is only a couple corners, 4 corners to be precise. As for the others, most drivers seem to be out on track. We only have 3 drivers in pit lane: Jensen Rosen, Isaac Leet, and Jay Esty, as we see Beisner and Louis Welch make another jump further forward. Louis Welch makes an 8.5 jump forward, as Gottschalk has gone into pit lane. I think Stephen Vassel, no, he is not improving. Looks like Dagmar has invalidated. And I want to watch the man who was on pole last week out. That is Tom Roberts, the first driver that managed to get a pole position. That was not Aaron Raminguez, but that was also because Aaron Raminguez was not there last week in China. He is still perfect in pole positions, participated in 3 races and got 3 poles. So we have to see if he can do anything like that tonight. And it looks like he has just matched Gottschalk's time on the 1000th. But because Gottschalk said it first, he holds provisional pole.
Yeah, Gottschalk setting that time when he needed to the most. And of course, with Aaron Raminguez there in second place, he is still looking for that 4th pole position in the 4 races he's contended, like Miff has said. But he is super fast in the qualifying. What's really let him down this season, Miff, is those races. Especially at the first round in Bahrain, made the wrong strategy decision. He then paid the price for that. And then at Brazil, we just didn't really seem to have the pace. It's just all spiraled from there, really, for Raminguez. So if he has a good qualifying here, he needs to back that up with the race. Luckily, this circuit at Austria, it's very easy to sit with the cars in front of you in that DRS range. But he still needs to make those decisions correctly. It's been his biggest weak point, is him making those crucial key decisions that he needs to. So for Dominguez, it's a big evening here, especially if he's able to back it up with another pole position. He needs to prove he is not just a one-lap merchant. His teammate, Igor, goes to the top of the times. The first driver to break that 1:10 barrier. It does show the track ramping up massively. There goes Roberts Curiel now with a 10.7 halfway into this session. And we're already into the high 1:10s. Could my prediction of a low 1:10 be blown out the water? And could potentially we see somebody dive into those 1:9s?
Well, it definitely looks like we're already improving quite a ton. We're almost a second quicker than we were approximately 6 minutes ago. But I also want to give a huge shout out to Damien Curiel in the meantime. He let us know in the absence thread that he was not sure whether he was going to make an appearance tonight because he got into a car accident earlier on today. He said he wasn't feeling too well earlier on. He did manage to make it into qualifying and is now on provisional pole. So Damien, I hope for you that nothing was too bad for you, that everything is all right with you, and we wish you a speedy recovery regardless. He's now in P2 though. Tim Tornimo has just pipped into the top of the timing boards, but I think more and more drivers will be looking to improve as we now watch Aaron Raminguez make a very big slide through the final corner. I think he's faster, and he is indeed, but only 0.07 of a second. It's once again a Haas provisional pole.
Yes, nicely done there from Dominguez to put himself onto provisional pole. And that Haas driver just seeming to be uber cool under pressure on one lap. But he still needs to do it for a few more, of course, on 3-lap old intermediate. So he's got about another lap's worth of tyre left in the tank. Or is he going to go push for another one now? JSD moves himself up into second place.
He matched it as well.
Oh, he has matched it. I couldn't see that due to how the clouds look on the timing tower. I couldn't exactly see Raminguez's lap time, but he's matched it as well. So it seems today, of course, it is a short circuit, so not much time to be made up. But it seems today is a day of just drivers matching the person who's on pole.
Yeah, of course, it is a fairly rare occurrence. I believe we saw it last year out in the real F1 races. I'm not sure exactly which track it was, but of course the most famous one is the one in 97, which I believe was at Jerez, where 3 drivers got identical pole lap times. Let's see if we can come any closer to that. So we're currently spectating Oliver Nutt, but it looks like he has aborted on that lap. Seemed to be a little bit wobbly through a couple corners, especially through 7 and 8. As now a Red Bull comes soaring by. I think that's the Red Bull. It was not the Red Bull Sachinib, it was Steven Vassels. And he has not really improved yet on his own lap times. Here he comes across the line, and he goes to P5 provisionally. Only a 1/10.5 away from that provisional pole Aaron Raminguez holds. So a pretty decent lap from the Red Bull driver. Jenson Rolson, in the meantime, he seems to be on for an improvement as well. Only 1/10 in the first sector. And then there comes Lucas Beisner, 3/10 quicker than the entire field. And as you indeed predicted, Max, we are slowly but surely getting into the low 10s. Can we even get into the 109s? I think, Max, we will.
I think we will as well. Beisner with that 10.3 again on some fresh intermediates like Moldovan. Really just shows how much those extra few laps younger those tyres are and how crucial it is. Louis Welch goes up into 6th place. Of course, it's going to be a frantic qualifying sessions with drivers so out of sync from one another. As there goes Patrick Datmeyer into 7th. He's in the McLaren, of course, with a 10.756. Damien Curiel is just starting his next lap. That was Jensen Ralston going up into 2nd with a 10.4. Time certainly starting to tumble here in Spielberg. But what's Damien Curiel doing in that first sector? So for the Aston Martin driver, he heads up the hill. Oliver Nutt with a 10.1. He's Aston Martin's teammate. Curiel up by 1/10.25. So for Oliver Nutt, a brilliant lap time there. And if his teammate's able to match that or go even quicker, we're certainly going to see the 9s. Could we potentially see a mid-9s? This track is ramping up massively. And this really is shaking up qualifying. And we don't know who's going to get pole position till the very end.
No, it really depends on timing. When are you on the track? How late can you possibly go? But we see how much more grip the drivers already have. The lines that they couldn't take earlier on, they can now. And look at that, Damien Curiel already up by 3.5 but there's so much time to find in that final sector. He's already on for a potential P5. but those final few corners, you can take so much more risk through them. We saw Jensen Rosen pretty much nail the final corner. Damien Curiel almost does the same, but he's going to be close. He's not breaking into the 109 just yet, but 100th quicker than Oliver Knott, and he puts Aston 1 on 2. Great run from him all the way through, but we still have Aaron Ramirez. He is already quicker, a 10th compared to his own personal best, as Gottschalk is the first to dive into the 109, so 109.983, but I think Ramirez might be the second, if not third, because there's a few drivers still ahead of him on the track.
Yeah, we're going to see what is going to happen in these later stages qualifying. Sanger, of course, with that invalidation. There's Bogdan Moldovan putting him up into second place. So 1 minute 10.121. So who else is going to be coming to the line on a lap time? Alessandro Fini's down by 0.6 of a second. Tom 97 is down by a few tenths. Is Ramirez on the lap? It does seem so as he crosses the line. Where does he go? He shoots the provisional pole now by just under 0.04 of a second in front of Daniel Gottschalk. And now the Haas driver throwing his statement at it once again, but still with 3 minutes and 30 left in this session, this track can ramp up absolutely massively. Tom Roberts up by half a second in the middle sector. What's going to be as he crosses the line? He moves himself up into third, near a second found on his previous attempt. Oh my God, this session is going to be crazy in the next 3 minutes. We're going to see drivers like Isaac Leak, like Vasso Datmeyer just shoot themselves up the order. If they're able to keep it clean and keep it valid, we are certainly going to see them shoot to the top of the times. And it really is anybody's game. Ramirez at the minute is on top. He has the upper hand. But at any given moment, that can be cruelly snatched away from him.
Yeah, and he needs to make sure that he makes a decision quickly now. He's now in the third sector, 2 minute 45 left on the clock. Needs to dive into the pit quickly and then get a fresh set of boots, or at least some extra fuel on board there. As we are watching Tim Tornemo, he goes for quite a big slide. That is his lap done for, but he still has time to complete that lap, do a cool down lap, and go for another one. I assume at least that is what his strategy will be. He's the only one currently on laps. Tom Roberts and Bogdan Moldovan are on out laps, I presume. Tom Roberts at least is ahead of him. Bogdan Moldovan is, however, still further out on track, so I think he's going to be staying out too. Then Dagmar has now also started a lap. Tornemo has aborted his. So that gives us some time to look at what Bogdan Moldovan is doing, but he is on a cooldown lap as well. That means the next driver that is going to set a fast lap time will be Dagmar. His first sector is a 17.1. That is matching what Aaron Ramirez did in the first sector. So even though Dagmar is down 0.8 and currently in P18, he could very well slot back into provisional pole. And with few drivers still in pit lane, 4 drivers to be precise, they have to get out now. 1 minute and 30 just left here. But all the drivers are going to do one more shot to take that pole position. I think, Max, some 109 4s or 5s is what's going to be it for today.
Yeah, it certainly is. We're going to see those low 1 minute 4s or 5s as Tom Roberts with a big slide there in the middle sector on his lap. He's now up by nearly 0.2 of a second. This will be good enough for provisional pole position for when he comes to the line. Of course, this is going to be his final attempt, so it's all or nothing here for the Scuderia Ferrari. Of course, the man who got pole position last time out when Ramirez wasn't here, but invalidates at the penultimate corner. Tom Roberts coming up to the line. Oliver Knott with a 1 minute 9.4. Brilliant lap from the Aston Martin. Roberts would have joined him on the front row of the grid. Arian Sang is starting his lap. I'm going to have a look at Bogdan Moldovan quickly, as that's Lucas Basner shooting up into second. Moldovan now heading through the left-hander here in the Williams through turn 6. What's it going to be in the middle sector split? He's up by 0.2 of a second. At this rate, he could potentially, with the improvement we've seen drivers find in that final sector, join Oliver Knott on that front row. Bogdan Moldovan through the penultimate corner. Isaac Leach shoots himself up into third. The final corner now for the Williams. He's been struggling in qualifying this season. Can he finally find that form here in Austria? He goes up into third place. He can for now, as more drivers starting their next attempts. Daniel Gottschalk is on a lap. There's a Red Bull coming up to line. I think that's Stephen Vasso. No, it is not. It's the other Red Bull, sorry. Of Sasha Neeb, and he is was actually on a lap, setting himself up. So it will be Daniel Gottschalk who is going to be next. Tom Roberts has got it beached in turn 3. Gottschalk, he is up by just under 2/10 of a second. Can he put himself in front of his teammate Lucas Baesner onto that front row of the grid? Here he comes across the line. Yes, he can. And only just behind Oliver Knott by 0.02 of a second. Baesner's not improving anymore. What about Raminguez in that middle sector? He's up by nearly 4.5 of a second. Look at Aaron Raminguez, Myth. Is he going to snatch that 4th pole in 4 races?
Well, he's got to do it now, and it looks like he's a little bit quicker in that final sector. Just needs to keep it on the track for now, and he could go for a 109.2. Raminguez to the line. He does a 109.3, and he snatches pole away just in the dying moments. But we have more drivers out on track. Sasha needs on for an improvement. Not enough to snatch pole. Igor Piasecki is not enough for an improvement for him either. Moldovan is not on for a quick run either. That leaves Neeb and Tom Roberts. Tom Roberts now the last one out on track, and he's not improving either. It is 4 for 4 for Aaron Raminguez. It does not matter what type of weather we have. He puts that Haas on pole whenever he wants to, and he's done so. 4 races this season. All 4 races he's participated, and he clears Oliver Knott by 1/10 as he drives the Aston Martin. They will be sharing the front row, but great work once again by Raminguez, and that bags him once again an extra point, which means that after 5 qualifying sessions and 4 races, he's already picked up 5 bonus points, 4 for pole position and 1 for fastest lap, and that is really impressive.
Aaron Raminguez, take a bow, son. This man over 1 lap is oh so deadly, and he's just proven that again. 4 races he's participated in this season, 4 pole positions in qualifying, and this one was the first one in those wet weather conditions. He can do it in any type of condition, can Raminguez. So, your order for this evening's Grand Prix is Raminguez on pole for Oliver Knott in second. A brilliant outing for the 2 RBs as well. For Gottschalk in third and Baesner 4th. Curiel is in 5th. Pajewski in 6th. Tim Tornebo 7th. JST 8th. Datmeyer 9th. And Moldovan in 10th. Ralston is 11th, followed by Stephen Vasso, Isaac Lee, Tom 97, Louis Welch, Alessandro Finn, Sasha Neeb, Ariane Sanger, Tom Robertson 19th after that crucial invalidation at the end, and Balin Alekis rounding out your a very eventful qualifying there, Myth. It should be shaping up for a good race, but again, of course, in those conditions, we don't know who's going to be there when it comes to the dries. If it is going to be dry for the Grand Prix, that is. Exactly,
and we will have to see what the weather is going to be like, because we're going to have a restart. If we didn't have a restart, the skies would have been as clear as they could be, with not a spot of clouds to be seen in our view for now. But one thing that I do want to talk about, Max, is one driver that we did not see whatsoever all the way throughout that qualifying session, and that is our championship leader, Louis Welch, only qualifying in P15.
Yeah, not the strongest of qualifying there for Louis. Just not really gelling well with the circuit in those conditions, it seems. But still, of course, a long race to go. 36 laps, and we're going to be in for a thriller. And of course, around here, very easy to overtake. So for Louis, it's not all done yet. He just needs to keep his nose clean, find his way through the pack, and he could certainly see himself have a few points. But I mean, at the rate he is going, he is, of course, Damien Curiel will need to finish at least second to match him in the standings. If he doesn't do that, then Louis Welch keeps the championship lead here this evening. So he still has that comfy cushion in hand, but of course, he just would want some points here, will the Alpine man, because if he's able to consistently score those good points, top 5 finishes week in and week out, makes his championship bid even better. And of course, with such little rounds left in the season, even though we're only on round 5, it is crucial to have that at least 12-point advantage at this stage in the runnings.
Yeah, we are exactly at the halfway mark, but I think since we're talking about the standings now, let's get them in front of us so you can see what has happened and what is still to come. you have our standings. Our championship leader, Louis Welch, the only driver that has won more than one race so far this season, with a win in Interlagos and last week out at the Shanghai International Circuit. He clears Damien Curiel by 12 points, although Curiel starts in P5 with Louis Welch only on P15. Then it's JST who won their opening race. After that, a 9th place, a 7th place, and a did not start means that he is in 3rd, shared on equal points 22 with Tim Tornimo, who has really picked up the pace the last 2 rounds with the 3rd and 2nd place. Then it's Isaac Lead in P5, 1 point behind them, did not start the last week out in Shanghai. Then it's Igor Piasecki, who got that big penalty in Bahrain, and that has really held him back so far, and also DNF'd 2 weeks ago in Spa-Francorchamps, still on 18.6 in the standings. We also have Florian Van Zelter here. He's only participated in 1 race or stand-in, but he won that race on debut, so great work from him. And rounding off the top 10 will be Balandelekis, Tom Roberts, Tom 97, and Lucas Beisner in 11th. And then Aaron Raminguez in P12, the man that we talked about so much. He now has 13 points, so will be shared 10th with Tom and Lucas. But yeah, like we said, out of his 13 points that he has now, 5 of them are points awarded because of either a pole position or a fastest lap max.
Yeah, they certainly are. And poor good old Aaron Raminguez, if he's just able to convert that qualifying form into race pace, that man will be so difficult to beat, and he could well be streaking clear at the front of the field in the championship, but unfortunately the races just seem to be his biggest weakness. So yeah, he's got a lot of work to do here this evening in Austria. If anything here, Myth, he'll be hoping for another wet session, not have that DRS to contend with, so he can just sit out in front, and all he has to contend with then is the slipstream. And that just makes it a bit easier for him to hold on to that race lead and not worry about any DRS games. It's just focus on your own drive, really.
Yeah, and that is something that he definitely has to do. He's tried to do so in the first race where he went for that offset strategy. Unfortunately, that did not work out for him. The second race lost a little bit of pace, then got involved in a little bit of an incident in Interlagos, and that forced him to drop down a little bit. So there's always been a reason why he's dropped down a little bit, and those certainly are not his driving skills, because he definitely is up there with all the other drivers. And as soon as he starts putting it together, I think for Aaron it's just a matter of just getting a solid podium in, getting a race win in, make sure that he tastes victory, and once he does, I think he will be very hard to stop for the likes of his teammate Igor, Louis Welch, JST, but also Damien Curiel, who's currently 2nd in the standings. Also a few drivers that we expect a little bit more of. If we look at last season, Oliver Nutt, Tim Tornimo, they're not as far up the standings as we thought we would have seen, but I think, Max, tonight this could be Oliver Nutt's time to shine, because we know that he is particularly strong here in Austria.
Yeah, he's a very strong driver around this track. It's just taking him maybe a few races to get used to this tier, get used to this season, and just overall get back up into that racing speed. I mean, we've seen that with Gottschalk and Beisner here as well this evening. It's just taking him that little bit longer just to get into things, get this season, get the ball rolling. And of course, only on 5 points, he'll be looking to at least increase that by, in his standards, the whole 16, but realistically at least another 8. Get a top 4 finish at the very least here, Oliver, and you're in a very good position to just keep that momentum going forward. And yeah, so for Oliver Nutt, it's been a very tricky season for him so far. Of course, at the halfway point now, you wouldn't really expect him to be in that championship battle unless he has a really late surge into this championship fight. But of course, with it being such a short calendar, we can have drivers that have those weak first races. If they win 2 in a row, because there's not been that many Grand Prix, just shoot up into that championship fight, and then bang, they're back on the level playing field. And into that final round of the season, we could see somebody who hasn't really performed well all the way up to around about Silverstone, Singapore. They get 2 race wins on the bounce, and then they come into Abu Dhabi with a chance of fighting for the title.
Yeah, exactly. But if you do want to make a throw for that title bid, you definitely need to start that either tonight or next week out when we go to Silverstone, as you mentioned. Anything after that, the final 3 races will likely be too late, because I do expect Louis Wells to score some more points and to make that gap a little bit bigger, at least for some of the drivers. But before we start here tonight, let's first take a little look at the track we'll be driving at tonight, because for round 5, which is in Austria. So the track we'll be driving at tonight, the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg, 4.3 kilometers, 2.7 miles with 3 DRS zones and 65 meters change in elevation. It's featured twice on the calendar in 2 seasons as the Austrian and Styrian Grand Prix, with 10 turns, of which 2 corners are named after former world champions. The first corner named after Niki Lauda, and turn 9 named after Jochen Rindt. Joachim Rindt, of course. So quite a track with some standing in that regards. The shortest track on the calendar as well, at least based on lap time. And with these DRS zones, especially in the F1 games, it's always a thrill to watch, because maybe throughout the race it stays a little bit calm, but those final 4 or 5 laps, that's when the strategy really starts kicking off, and that's where the drivers will be throwing out everything they have and go for double, triple, or even quadruple overtakes. So I'm expecting fireworks in the final few laps, Max.
Oh yeah, the final few laps will certainly produce some fireworks. At the very least, and indeed will be quite an eventful Grand Prix. And at that end, it's certainly all going to be about who performs this strategy the best, who stays within the DRS the best as well, who gets into that hot seat of either 2nd or 3rd place onto that final lap, and you see yourself fighting for that race victory into the, I would say, the final place to really go for that overtake is into the Swash Golden turn 4, maybe up into turn 6. Is the real last opportunity, but turn 4 is really where you need to set that all up. But yeah, into that section of the circuit, who has put themselves in the best position to capitalise? That is going to be the question. And what's the weather going to be like? So we're now heading into the Grand Prix. And at the moment, it does look dry, but as you can see in the background there, Myth, there's quite an ominous cloud looming large overhead.
Yeah, make sure that everyone on YouTube will be able to see that as well. If you see in the top right hand corner, that is a massive rain cloud, so we surely will have a threat of rain all the way throughout the race. 36 laps that we're going to drive here, half race distance, with all 20 drivers out there on the track. Just to come back to those DRS zones, as I mentioned, there are 3 DRS zones. There's one at the start-finish straight, one's after turn 1, that's Niki Lauda Curva, and one is after turn 3, which is Remus, and it leads all the way up into turn 4, which is Schlossgold. So a lot of action that will happen because of the DRS. You need to stay within the DRS, otherwise you're going to fall out of contention. And this is one of those track smacks where what really matters is stay at the same kind of strategy as your opponents do. Make sure to match it, stop around the same lap time, because once you fall out of the DRS window, or you're just gonna lose a heap of time, and that is not going to help you at all here. But strategy-wise, Max, what do you think? What will the drivers use as a starting tire? Do you think they'll go for medium hard or for hard medium?
I would say hard medium is going to be the best strategy for this one. Of course, you get that slower tyre out the way first. You can stick with the train with everybody else, and then come into the pit lane, put on a fresh set of mediums, and then you're going to be quicker at the end of the Grand Prix. And that is really the best bet around a circuit like Austria. Get that heavy fuel, get that slower tyre out the way, and then once you're onto that grippier medium, you can really just send the car around this circuit. Of course, big factor of this Grand Prix, not only is that DRS, but also track limits. They're going to play a big part, but we're about to get underway here, Myth, so take us away for the 5 red lights.
And we have our 5 red lights, and they're off with a great start on the outside for Aaron Ramirez, and it looks like he already has a sizable lead over Oliver now diving into turn 1. Let's see if they can all keep it clean. There was a little bit of braking with his teammate, the Haas. I see a Ferrari go wide, but looks like all drivers are still out there on track, with Arjen Sanka now losing position over to Tom Roberts, and immediately the pressure is on the Ferrari with a McLaren on the inside. That is JST, who's looking to overtake him for P7. It looks like he has managed to do so. The top 5 still staying intact, but we have a yellow flag. That is for Steven Vasso, who spun round in turn 3. So we'll be resuming the battle quite a distance away. Isaac Lead and Bogdan Moldovan are currently fighting for P11. We're now on board with the Williams driver as he tries to stick around the outside, but he taps the McLaren of Dagmar in the process of doing so. But still, side by side he is with Isaac Lead. Wants to just stay ahead, and this time he's managed to leapfrog him. He's ahead of Lead and will stay ahead for the remainder of this lap as he clinches on to P11. And further up ahead, Aaron Raming is under some serious pressure by Oliver Knott as Moldovan already picked up a 3-second time penalty for track limits. We're gonna see a lot of those, but within the first lap, Max, that is very, very early.
Yeah, our old Bogdan. It's not even been a lap, man, and you've already picked up a 3-second time penalty. Don't carry on that trend at all. But here comes Oliver Knott for that race lead. I said Raminguez probably would have wanted this to be dry to not worry about that DRS, but now, unfortunately for him, it is going to be a dry Grand Prix. Patrick Datmeyer falling behind both Tim Tornimo and Jensen Ralston as Damien Curiel is now going for the move on Lucas Paisner. He's splitting the V-carbs, or is he? As he's into the back of Daniel Gottschalk, and that's allowed Paisner to sliver back down the inside. And can he then produce the good old defensive move now around the outside for Lucas Paisner? Is he going to be able to pull this one off? He's really trying to do what Bogdan Moldovan did to Isaac Lee, but the Aston Martin driver shows him the door, and Lucas Paisner has to settle for 5th. Pajewski went a little bit wide through turn 4, and that allowed JST to move himself up into 6th place. So a brilliant lap there from JST to capitalise on Pajewski's mistake. He's up 2 places in this Grand Prix. Our biggest gainer is the man from last place on the grid. Baden Aleki's up up 6 places into 14th. Louis Welch is our second biggest loser after Steven Vasso, down to 19th, our championship leader. So a horrid start for him as Tom Roberts get past Sasha Neeb, and here comes Tom 97. Neeb, because he's going to be done by the Roberts 1-2, but no, sorry, not Roberts 1-2, the Tom 1-2 is what I was trying to say. And it's Tom 97 to the inside line, not being able to get the move done as Sasha Neeb is actually trying to hold this one round the outside of Tom Roberts.
Yeah, one driver is getting very close towards the pack up ahead is now JS. He's already cleared a couple drivers, and he's now behind Lucas Beisner fighting for P5, but we keep all of our drivers within that DRS strain. The only exception is, of course, Steven Vasso after that incident that he had in turn 3. Not entirely sure what happened there, but with him now 5 seconds back, it's going to be very hard for him to cut back on that deficit, get back into DRS window, so likely we'll be out of contention unless we see a safety car later down the line. But let's go back to Oliver Knott, because we're going to have some DRS zones, which means that he will be charging back on to Aaron Raminguez here before the end of turn 3. So let's go on board with Knott so we can see the overtake for the race lead. We're going to see a lot of overtakes for the race lead. Knott is going to go via the outside, so it looks like he wants to go at least a safer route, but even on the outside he's way too quick for anyone else as we now go further down the field so we can see some overtaking action by Tom 97. He's cleared Sasha Neeb, with Igor in 7th fighting hard tooth to nail with Tim Tornimo and also Jensen Ralston. And here comes Aryan Sanga on Sasha Neeb. They're now side by side on the exit of turn 4. It looks like Aryan is just a little bit quicker, but of course the next turn will be on to the left. That will be advantage for Sasha Neeb, but looks like they're still going side by side, and in a moment I think Aryan is going to clear him, and indeed he has. He's now up into P17, so great job by the Kick Sauber driver.
Yeah, nicely done there from Ariane as he's now looking all over the back of the Alpine of Tom 97. A little bit of a slide through the penultimate corner. That's going to affect his run ever so slightly, but he's not under any pressure from Sasha Neeb behind. JST, we're talking about putting pressure on, is putting the pressure on the V-carb of Lucas Beister up in front of him. He's using that battery. There goes Raminguez past Oliver Knott for that race lead. Once again, ST looking to the outside. That's forced Beister into the move there on Damien Curiel. Not being able to get the move done is the V-carb. That's going to weaken his run out of turn 3 as we head down into the Swash Goal. JST, the Papaya McLaren, looks to that inside line. He's trying to lunge it to the inside of the RB. Of course, Lucas Bateson will now get the run out to the corner and the inside line to turn 6, but knows that fighting it isn't going to be worth the time lost and just slots in behind. Knows he could just stick within that DRS range of the McLaren. Very smart move there from Baesner and Myth. We're already seeing some drivers think about the long game, think about not losing too much time. That's exactly what Lucas Bateson just did there.
Yeah, it looks like JSC also used a little bit of deployment there. Definitely got a much better exit out of turn 4. A lot of more speed that he picked up. It looks like Beisner indeed decided not to fight it. That was a wise decision as we see Patrick Dackmeyer just pull over. That was a very weird move from him. Looks like he just slowed down. I'm not entirely sure what happened, but he's now found himself to the back of the queue. He's now more than a second behind Louis Welch. I don't know what happened there, but in the meantime, Oliver Knott and Gottschalk are fighting for race lead, and we have 3 men wide now coming out of turn 3.
Yeah, there we go then. Oliver Knott takes that race lead away, but Gottschalk was trying to get past the pair of them. Might actually lose out to Damien Curiel in the end. The Aston Martin looking to try and make that 3 wide. Gottschalk and Ramirez make contact. Oh, and a big slide for the RB. What a save and brilliant reaction as well from the Aston Martin and Curiel on the inside. He did well to avoid not losing his front wing. Gottschalk slots into that 3rd place. Curiel slots back into 4th. And everything stays as it was, but in that battle for the race lead, of course, Ramirez and Oliver Knott did swap places, but everyone else behind stayed where they were. For Patrick Dackmeyer, I wouldn't be surprised if there's an issue of some sorts for him. So I think he did go into AI mode ever so slightly. He's not driving as himself, or maybe a disconnect that we don't know of yet. The 2 Mercedes drivers are squabbling. The 2 Silver Arrows are having a little bit of argy-bargy themselves. Jensen Ralston being forced onto the sausage curb there from Isaac Lee. And I've just seen Ramirez fly up into the air in front behind Oliver Knott. That is very weird to see there on the game. But Igor Paszewski's teammate able to get past Lucas Baesner. Ramirez now trying to fight this one down into turn 4 in the Swash Gold. Is he going to be able to get the move done? Yes, he will. Ramirez retakes that race victory. And for Oliver Knott, he's now up, fallen down into 2nd place. And Gottschalk is just waiting for another opportunity that he saw earlier on arise. And he'll try to snatch that race lead away once again.
Yeah, in the meantime, we're on board with Balanilek. He started in P20s, now all the way up to P11. So a great race so far from the man in the Kick Sauber, as he's now eyeing those 2 Mercedes up ahead, with Alessandro Finn just picking up a penalty, 3-second time penalty for track limits. So both of the Williams drivers have picked up those penalties already. Balanilek, I believe, also has the fastest lap time so far, so he definitely seems to be the quickest man out there on track, although he's a little bit slower than his own previous best in that last lap, and the gap towards the Mercedes drivers up ahead seems to be a little bit bigger than it was the round before. But we see everyone fighting tooth and nail, and that allows him to come back so much, crawl back so much into turn 3, and that might make him set some proper lineups for 4th and further on down the line. Let's see how he fares with that, because we have that's Isaac Lee diving to the inside of Beisner. They still go side by side. I have a great view of that from the man in P11, and it looks like the RB will stay ahead of that, at least momentarily. And in the meantime, also, one of the Aston drivers, Damon Curiel, has managed to get past Gottschalk. He is now in P3 with his teammate Oliver Knott in P1.
Yeah, nicely done there from Oliver. And we're going to see if Ramirez is just going to, of course, do that swap around once again. They've been really working well together up at the front, even though they are 2 different teams. But look who is climbing up the field once again. We just saw him get past Daniel Gottschalk on the pass lap, and he's now looking for that race victory. It's the man 2nd place in the championship, Damien Curiel, who is actually under pressure now from Daniel Gottschalk, who's made the lunge to the inside line. It's a nice move if Gottschalk's going to be able to get this one done. No contact on the exit of the corner either. JSD's looking to get involved as well. He's looking to the outside line now of Gottschalk, who's been forced into that move on Curiel. Is he going to get the move done? The RB looking for that lunge, looking for the drive now out to the corner. He's still got the ever so aggressive JSD looming in the mirrors, but has to just sit behind for now. And luckily the Papaya McLaren was not close enough to go for that move. But for Curiel, as it stands, of course he won't take the championship lead just yet. A very big point score, and really slashes that gap down between himself and Louis Welch. And of course, He's got his teammate Oliver not in front of him, so could we later see, which I God forbid do happen because I do not want it at all, but some team orders come into play. Of course, here Myth, Oliver not isn't really in championship contention yet, whereas his teammate Curiel is. So could we see a favour work between the two Aston Martin's drivers where Curiel maybe gets that position at the end of the Grand Prix from not?
Well, I don't think we're going to see that happen, but in the meantime, we have our first driver come into the pits. It looks like that's Aryan Sanga, who's also switched his front wing. He's now gone over to the mediums, but I think he'll be having to stop later on down the line as we now resume back with the fight up ahead, where this time Gottschalk is going to try and do it around the outside. They still go side by side, but the drive from Curiel once more is so much better. So we have a yellow in sector 2, and that is Bogdan Moldovan, who picked up yet another penalty, but looks like he spun out a little bit. He's now rejoined. He's behind Vaso as we speak. Dagmar has also dropped back significantly, but that was due to the issue that we saw before. And Isaac Lead is now fighting tooth to nail with Lucas Beisner. It looks like, oh, that's a late send into the final corner. That's not a place where you want to go for an overtake, and that overtake does prove unsuccessful. But to come back to you, Max, what you were saying earlier on, I don't think Oliver Knott is going to play any team orders here. Of course, Damon Curiel, if the results end the way they are now, he will slash that championship lead from Welch down from 12 points to 2. But for Oliver Knott, he could do a great bet at putting himself in for a championship fight later on down the line. Curiel's now even second, so that would match him on points. But here we go. Aaron Ramirez on the inside. 3 men wide into 4 they go. There's a McLaren involved too. Curiel, who was momentarily first, has been put back into P4. He's not going to go down the inside there, but that was not an optimal turn for him either, but he still stays ahead of SD. But that was a great send from Ramirez, going back from 4th up into P2 as the pack just keeps getting tighter and tighter, where from 5th to 10th, the gaps are all just about a 10th.
Yeah, they certainly are, and just look how close it is. And also, Myth, look at the clouds overhead. It is starting to get more overcast. It's starting to get darker here in Austria. We're going to see maybe some rain affect this Grand Prix too. That could be a big shout. But with Sanger coming in so early, I wouldn't think it'll be till the end of the Grand Prix. Ramirez takes the lead off Oliver Knott. There is JSD to the inside of Damien Curiel. A brilliant lunge from SD, but once again, just looking at that inside line, it's not able to give you the drive off the corner down into turn 4 that you oh so need, and it's so crucial to get the move done on the exit of the corner. Just on that narrower line, not able to get the foot down as early, and that's allowed Damien Curiel with that wider trajectory just to keep that 4th place. But still, oh so close throughout this field. You could cover that whole top 10 with a blanket at this rate. That's just how close it is. And for Aaron Ramirez up in front, this has probably been his best opening 12 laps we've seen so far from the Haas driver, where he has seemed, with Oliver Knott, to be in control of this one, and it seemed a lot more smoother than we saw in Brazil. That the switches, they just seem a lot more natural in this Grand Prix than they were only a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I think the drivers know that they don't need to worry about any switches for a time being. Another thing that catches my eye in the meantime, Stephen Vasso's actually not dropped back all that far. You would think that with 3 DRS zones, he'd be dropping back quite a stretch in all those laps, but in about 7 or 8 laps, he's only lost about 1.4 seconds, so it's about 0.2 per lap. That is not a lot, given the fact that all the drivers up ahead of you have those DRS zones, but looks like the gap, just as I say that, has increased by half a second, but maybe later on down the line, where there is no DRS, where he does have that free air, and he can cut back on that time a little bit. So maybe with a little bit of luck, he'll be back in the fight later on after the pit stops have happened. But I think it's going to be a very tough ask for Vasso to score any points here tonight. And for Louis Welch, he is in P16. He's dropped 1 place compared to his starting slot, but it looks like he's not able to get up the grid either. So he's definitely struggling. Balanalekis has finally dispatched Jensen Rausen in the meantime, so he's now up in P10. But it looks like his progress has also been halted, as is for most drivers.
Yeah, it has been halted quite a bit. The driver that really is making inroads is Bainat Nalek. He's up to 10th place so far from 20th on the grid. Maybe just didn't really go well in those intermediate conditions. That's Sasha Neve spinning around in the background. There's carbon fiber all over the road as well. It just congested up. Oh, wow! And crucially, the driver who lost that carbon fiber, lost the front wing, both end plates, is Louis Welch, the championship leader here in round 5. It has all been blown wide open as the Alpine driver unfortunately loses both front wing end plates. I think the same has happened with Tom Roberts as well. But for Louis Welch, disaster with his championship rival Damien Curiel in such a good position in this Grand Prix just to try and take as many points as possible. He might have just seen his championship lead fade away, and potentially we could see a new championship leader heading out of this evening. But of course, Louis will try his best to stick with things. And yes, Tom Roberts also missing both his end plates. It was just where it all congested up behind one another up into turn 3. It's so deadly at that point of the circuit to do that. You come to a near stop. That's how late, much you have to brake into that part of the circuit. Sasha Neve has retired from the session. He's actually crashed at the end, exit at turn 1, and we have a safety car. This throws everything up into the air, and has this just been the lifeline for both Louis and Tom?
I think this might have just been the lifeline for Louis and Tom, because they can now change their front wing, not lose too much time. It's also great news for Vasso, Dagmeier, and Arjen Sanga as well. Perhaps even the most for Arjen Sanga, because he is the only driver that has stopped and has already fulfilled the tire requirements. He can now go to the hards and drive out the race and those 20 laps that there's still left to go. All the other drivers will need to do 20 or so laps on mediums. That is not an easy ask. As for Arjen, 20 laps on the hards, that is definitely doable. But we're going to see all the drivers come in? No? Okay, Aaron Raminga stays out. Damon Curiel stays out. Igor stays out as well. But I think those will be the only 3 drivers. A little bit surprised that both of the Haas drivers stay out. I can see why a couple of drivers would like to stay out because of... Oliver Donna switched to inters. It looks like the rain's already going to start to come. I don't see any rain just yet. But the fact that he's changing for the inters means he knows it's going to start raining any moment.
I was going to say, as you were saying, if no one switched onto the intermediates before, just as you were saying that everyone stayed, those 3 drivers stayed out, I was about to mention, does that mean there is rain on the way? Because of course, staying out, you now get the track position. Yes, you're going to be on old hard compounded tyres. I'm surprised Tim, Jensen, Stephen, and especially Oliver have gone onto the intermediates, because if it don't rain, they have just lost everything. Those intermediates will burn up, they will heat up, and they'll just be reduced to nothing but rubber. And so for Oliver Knight, he's got to be really careful under this safety car and hope his prediction is correct and it rains hard enough. But for Raminguez, Piejeski's in a little spot above her as well, because he'll have to do a double stack at the very least. And for Curiel, this could be a master strategy. But of course, with the likes of Gottschalk, Esti, Leet, Alekis, all on some fresh rubber and faster rubber, could we see them hit the front of the field? Myth, this is very tense times. I was going to say, before everybody else stayed out of Curiel and Piejeski, that this could have been another one where Raminguez's just rash decisions not working out into his favour. But here, for the Haas driver, this could be a call. That does. And could we finally see something go Raminguez's way?
Yeah, it seemed like a very odd call from Raminguez, but I think now, seeing that 4 drivers have gone on to the intermediate tire, means that they are like, okay, we're just going to stay out, wait and see what the rain does, and then when the rain hits, we're going to make a pit stop, because most of the drivers have to take a pit stop anyways. For Oliver Knott, the big question is, how long is it going to take until it does rain? Because otherwise, he might have already destroyed his inters before the race even gets started. But I think at the end of this lap, we might see the race resume, unless it takes too long for Arjen Sanga to catch back up. Tom Roberts and Arjen have both gone for the Inter, so I think that all the drivers think that the rain is starting to come down now. I still don't see any rain as of yet. I'm going to stay on board with Aaron, as I do want to see if that safety car is going to come in. We will know in a few seconds from now as we enter the final sector, but I think the gaps are still too big and we're going to have another lap behind the safety car. Indeed we will. So once it hits lap 19, the race is going to resume. But are more drivers going to head into pit lane, or are they just going to stay out? Strategy really just became the most important thing. There's no rain just yet, but given the fact that 6 drivers are in the intermediate tires here behind the safety car, means that it has to come any moment.
It really does. Ooh. Oh.
Oh, Beisner sped up in pit lane. He went into pit lane, he sped up and got a penalty as a result. I think that is going to be something that he will be appealing. And
if they don't serve... Oh, they're serving it. Oh, it's raining! It's raining!
It is raining now, so it's... I still don't see any rain from my end, so maybe it's just raining at the start-finish straight, but it looks like the drivers that have gone for the Inters have gotten the timing just about right. Indeed, Tom Roberts, Arjen Songa, Lucas Beisner, they're going for extra pit stops. Now I see the spots of rain appear on Aaron Raminguez's visor, and that means that he will have to come in very, very quickly. See, all the drivers that did stop for mediums or softs had gotten the decision wrong. The drivers that stayed out made a better decision than them, but the drivers that made the best decision definitely go to Oliver Knott, Tim Tornimo, Jensen Rausen, and Steven Vasso. They're already out on the Inter. Safety car will indeed be in this lap. That's quite an early call. And for Tom Roberts, Beisner, and Arjen Songa, they need to hurry up to close that gap down. They will do so in time, and then they will be able to fight with all the rest. But I think, Max, it is more than wise to spectate Oliver Knott and see if he can already clear the drivers up ahead, or if it's still not too wet enough. But if I see how the rain's coming down, I think Oliver Knott might have that little edge over them.
I'm not too sure. I really am not too sure, because if this rain does not come down hard enough, which it is raining quite heavily, but if it don't come down any harder...
Oh,
Raminguez! Oh my God! Aaron Raminguez under the safety car when he was under the least amount of pressure, you can say here, Miff, has just taken himself out of the lead. Oh, Raminguez! The luck just keeps getting worse and worse for the Haas driver. I can't believe what I've just seen. He's warming his tyres up so aggressively under that safety car. And look at Tim Tornimo now to the inside line. The rain certainly helping those intermediate tyres. I wasn't too sure, but it certainly is greasy enough for them green wall tyres to work. As you can now see the rain starting to hit the circuit on the driver's feet, as Oliver Knott and Tim Tornimo have really worked this one into their favours. But for Aaron Raminguez, another pole position goes slipping through his fingers for the race victory. Disaster at what has to be the most awful way to lose a Grand Prix. And I just can't believe what I've just witnessed.
That was one of the most bizarre moments I've ever seen commentating here in the F1 games. He was about to resume, head into turn 9, went on the power just a tad too hard, and went straight into the wall. Because we already had a safety car that didn't trigger a second safety car, we still, of course, see the safety car screen on our left-hand side. I thought we were just getting a safety car straight away again, but the race has indeed started. Oliver Knott has a 2-second lead over Tim Tornimo. Then there's a 3.5-second gap on to Jensen Rausen, and that's when the gaps start to get close, with Vasso also close to the back of that Mercedes, of course. Then it's Tom Roberts, Beisner, Arjen Songa, who's made a great call. He's now up in P7. Then it's Igor Piaseczki, Damon Curiel's in 9th. Then it's Lead. But a couple drivers definitely gone down the order significantly. Louis Welch is now up into 16th as well. But remember, he was back with Tom Roberts and Arjen Songa. He went for a different strategy. Roberts got it right. He's now up in P5. But the man who's really delivered a masterclass here, and that was the first that actually dared to go onto the intermediate, is Oliver Knott, as he leads 2 seconds clear of Tim Tornimo.
He certainly does, but he's really struggling at the minute, is Oliver, to keep this thing pointed in the right direction. And maybe Oliver has just overheated those tyres ever so slightly. But we are, of course, everybody now onto the intermediate tyres. And this is going to be a race to the end. But we said here, Myth, I don't want to jinx him just yet, but for somebody like Oliver Knott, 8 points in the standings heading into this Grand Prix, that a big result here this evening could kickstart a championship challenge. Oliver Knott, of course, looking to take his first victory of the season, and this will promote him up to a total of, if I can do my maths correctly, 26 points. And then that will put
14.
him
14 behind.
14 behind Louis Welch. That would be just an amazing achievement at this stage. And as I said, a back-to-back victory could easily see somebody move to the front of the standings. And Oliver Knott could be the man who does just that. So for the Aston Martin driver, keep it smooth, keep it clean. And most importantly of all here, Myth, keep it within those track limits, keep it on the black stuff. Picking up that penalty could see the win handed to the Scuderia Ferrari of Tim Tornimo.
Yeah, but look at the gaps are starting to emerge as well. Vaso is leading back 3 all the way down to 7. Then there's a 13-second gap over to Damon Curiel's. Dagmar picks up a time penalty, but he's already down in last. That is 17th for now. Curiel's leading the second pack. That is with PSGL and lead. That is 1.7 seconds to Alessandro Finn, followed by Gottschalk, who's awfully close to him. He's still looking to pick up some points, but will need to dispatch the Williams driver quickly. And then ST, Alekis, Tom are quite close to him, with Louis Welch 4.5 seconds still down. So I'm not entirely sure what is happening to Welch, but definitely not the race that he was hoping for. Another man that we haven't really seen too much about, Tim Tornimo. He's already quite up there in the standings, and the second place here tonight will put him pretty much equal on points compared to Louis Welch. And if he wins the race here tonight, Max, he could even take over that championship lead after what has been a pretty crazy race so far. For now, the gap to Oliver Knott seems to be sort of stabilizing, maybe coming down by about a 10th every lap, so Tornimo is slightly quicker in that. Steven Vassell behind, still 4.5 seconds, but he has quite a pack to keep behind him. Rowson, Roberts, Beisner, and Sanga, and they're all gunning for that podium place. And even more interesting, Max, 5 drivers, 5 different constructors, all gunning for that podium.
They certainly are.
Oh, there it goes.
We're going to see a move here. There we are. Jensen Rowson to the inside line. Can he get it stopped? Yes, he can. He's on that inside line, though. It's going to be tricky for him to get the power back down, especially in these conditions. But he's been able to navigate it well as he now heads down into the swoosh goal of turn 4. But don't count out Tom Roberts either. Remember, for that safety car, he was missing both his front wing end plates. He switched over to the intermediate tyres. He went for the gamble. He was nearly left behind by the field in front of him on that safety car restart. But now he's battling for a podium. How much a difference a few laps can make, especially in changeable conditions, and some contact made, and Roberts just not being able to go to round the outside of Steven Vassell, and now puts him under pressure from Lucas Beisner, who's now looking to the outside through turn 9. What a move this would be from the RB if he's able to pull this one off. No, just gets shown the door. Sanger now to the inside for the final corner. The kick Sauber moves himself up into P6. And for Oliver Knott, he's extended that gap by about a tenth, so that gap is well steady at the front of the field. But for Jensen Rowson, he needs to try a breakaway from Steven Vassell, but with that slipstream being so powerful, it's certainly going to be a challenge to do.
Certainly will be a challenge for him indeed, but here he goes then, round the outside of the Ferrari of Tom Roberts. Can he dispatch him? There's a little bit of contact, will be pushed a little bit wide, but should have a slightly better exit, although he is still behind the Ferrari driver for now. But this is a great way to kick off your debut here in F4, currently in P6, but hoping for more is Arjen Sanga, as he wants to get ahead of Roberts, Vassell, and later on Rowson as well. The gap with Tornimo and Oliver Knott has gone up from 1.7 to 1.8, so it's just increased ever so slightly. Igor Piasecki has managed to dispatch Damon Curiel for 8th, but that gap's stable as well at 13.8. So really what we're looking for here is a couple of good fights for P3, with Vassell now getting much closer onto Jensen Rowson. The Ferrari had to dip there a little bit. That's opening the door again for Arjen Sanga. Is he going to send it into turn 1, or is he going to wait a little bit? He's oh so close to that Ferrari. He's going to wait just a little bit more. Perhaps a move into turn 3 will work out for him.
Hopefully it does for him. As you can see, Stephen Vasso now lining up Jensen Rowson, heading up the hill, but he's under pressure from Tom Roberts as well. He can't get too complacent behind the Mercedes. Rowson goes deep. Vasso needs to try get the run out of the corner, but can't do so. And Rowson just extends that lead ever so slightly more, but further back could we see Basner now go for the move on Ariane Sanger to retake that 6th place away, and yes he is, he's looking to the inside into the Swash Gold, and is he going to get the move done? Basner on that inside line, it'll be tricky for them to get the power down, but he's been able to do so, and there goes Sanger now to the inside once again into turn 6, and look how wide Basner has to go. That just shows how difficult it is to get the car rotated on a dry setup in these intermediate conditions, and he has to unfortunately relinquish the position down to P7. Tom 97 able to get past Alessandro Finn further back, and for Oliver Knott, that gap now 2 seconds at the front of the field. We're about to start 11 laps to go, and this battle for P3 really is ramping up. This is really the battle you want to be looking for, as Stephen Vasso is looking to try and take that move on Rowson. Our biggest gainer in this Grand Prix is Tom Roberts, up 14 places. SD with a penalty of 3 seconds, and both Rowson and Vasso up 8 places respectively. Is the Red Bull going to go for a move ever so shortly?
Well, we're going to stay on board with Beisner for a time being so we can watch this fight evolve around us, just ahead of us, with the 4 different manufacturers just ahead. But looks like they're staying in line for the braking zone into 4 as the Ferrari goes slightly wide as Tom Roberts. But it doesn't open up the door for Ariane Sanga, who just stays behind for the time being. It looks like they're just going to wait for some mistakes now before they're going to make any moves. Further down the line, looks like Damien Curiel has lost another position. He was doing also great until that rain hit. He's now down into P10, which means that he won't be putting a dent into that championship lead that Louis Welch has. But of course, the driver that we did speak about before, Tim Tornemo, will be doing that in his stead instead. But now then, down towards the start-finish line. We're now entering lap 26. Beisner had a little bit of a moment in turn 10, which put him back a little bit more, but the gap's further up ahead, also close. Dagmar now gets a 3-second time penalty for track limits. Now we get the TV view. Is anyone going to go for a move? The Ferrari is so close to the Red Bull. Is he going to dive down to the inside? No, it will be Ariane Sanga who does, and he's going to take 2 men wide. There's a little bit of contact, but is the Kick-Sauber driver going to get ahead? It looks like he will be able to do so. He's cleared 2 drivers in 1 corner. Tom Roberts has been booted back over to P7. Now the Red Bull wants to get back to Ariane Sanga with a little bit of slide, a little bit of wheel banging, but looks like Vasso is managing to get back in, and now it's 3 men wide heading out of turn 4, and Ariane Sanga is back to where he started in P6. Beisner and Tom Roberts have switched positions, and Vasso now has some catching up to do. 6-10s up ahead to Jensen Rowson.
Yeah, it certainly does. Rowson would count his lucky stars he wasn't collected by a steamrolling Ariane Sanger there. He just steamrolled up the inside. And I think that might be under review, because that was a very robust move, and it's ended up with Tom Roberts falling down to the back of this train, and he's now all over the back of said culprit, which caused him to go at the back. Ariane Sanger, of course. Stephen Vasso is now caught back up to Jensen Rowson, of course, with that slipstream. It's so powerful. Just slide your way back up just behind the car in front. They punch that hole, and you can go that little bit quicker down the straight. So into turn 3 we go. Is anyone going to go for the move? Yes, Tom Roberts repaying that favour. Another robust move in this train, and Roberts able to move himself up into 6th place. Brilliantly done from the Scuderia Ferrari man, and that's dropped Ariane Sanger just slightly off the back of him, as Gottschalk is able to get past Igor Paszewski in the background. That was really nicely done from Gottschalk. He's now moved himself quite the way up the order, and crucially here, if your name is Louis Welch here, Myth, you'll be counting your lucky stars, because the man closest to you in the championship, Damien Curiel, is only in 10th, and the man really that could make a dent into your championship, Tim Tornemo, is in 2nd, so he will lose a few points in the championship, but at least it's not to Damien Curiel, and it's not as bad as he thought it could be.
No, it's not as bad as he thought it could be, but Tornemo only 1 point down on Damon Curiel, so he will get awfully close. I believe he is 13 points behind. If he does finish in P2, He'll be 1 point away of that championship lead of Louis Welch. Oliver Nutt will move himself back into the fight. Jensen Rowson's going to score some good points. So a lot will be happening up ahead. And it looks like we're going to increase that fight from 3 to potentially 4 drivers the way it stands. But of course, other drivers could still jump in with our championship leader. Unlikely to pick up any points currently in P16. As further down the line, we see Balan Lekis having, or at least starting the fight with Isaac lead once more as he's in P12. But now JST is getting awfully close to the back of that Kick Sauber, so he has to drive a little bit defensively. But I don't think JST is going to go for any move here, and indeed will just stay behind. Try to go for a move almost, but we'll stay behind for the time being. So we really have 2 fights that we have to watch out for. The fight for P8 that got Shakas leading, and the fight for P3, which we are at now. Jansen Rowson still in P3, but Vasso, Beisner, Roberts, and Sanga are still gunning for that.
Yeah, they certainly are, as we're now going to see Patrick Datmeyer pick up a 3-second time penalty. But I was going to say we're going to see Vasso be all over the back of Jensen Rowson. Lap 30 of 36. As we're now heading up the hill once more into turn 3. We're going to see the Red Bull go for the move. He looks to that inside line as Base is trying to look to the outside line of him as well. But of course, Vasso wasn't committed enough. But luckily for him, Tom Roberts thought of an opportunity to go around the outside of Base. So that's counted his lucky stars and given him somewhat of a defense there for the Red Bull. Contact between the Ferrari and the RB. More contact being made as Base sends it to the inside line of Tom Roberts. And is he going to be able to get the move done? Yes, he is. He's able to hold on to that 5th place. And Stephen Vasso still not able to get past Jensen Rowson as Roberts with a robust lunge to the inside of Baster once again. He's been able to get the move done this time around with a little bit of contact made, and Ariane Sanger is now going for that move on Lucas Baster. But for Vasso here, Myth, it is just a moment of he's not confident enough to go for that move as Baster's still side by side with Sanger into the final, penultimate and final corner now. But for Vasso, he's just not being committed enough, and it's really costing him. He could have made at least 2 or 3 overtakes on Rowson by now, but just not being committed enough on the brakes has really cost him dearly and put him under pressure from behind.
Yeah, I think he knows now that he has to wait. There is no chance to claw back onto Tim Turnimo. That gap is 9.5 seconds, so the fight will be with the drivers behind you, and you don't want to be in P3 when that final lap does start. So I think he's just trying to position himself wisely, save up a bit of battery for that final lap, and then go for it and try to take P3 as a result. In the meantime, Beisner, because he was driving quite aggressively, got that door shut back onto him with Tom Roberts forcing him down the inside of 5 in the previous lap. That managed to get Roberts into P5, and that also allowed Aryan Sanga now to complete the move onto Beisner, who's been forced back onto P7. But also for Beisner, there's not much more to lose for him because the man behind him, his teammate, is 10 seconds down onto him. So not much he has to worry for from behind, just has to look further up ahead. But Aryan Sanga is about to be a second behind Tom Roberts, so he needs to pick up the speed. Because if in a moment we are still going to get some DRS, that might change everything, as we now still have 4 laps to go with 5 laps to go, sorry, as we are now in lap 32. Aryan Sanga's gap has closed down just a little bit, but not enough just yet, as we now go back to Jansen Rowson, and this time Stephen Vassell will have to go for a move down the inside. He was too close. If he doesn't do it now, Tom Roberts is going to do so. But will he let him go around the outside? It looks like he does for now. Dagmar's picked up an hour penalty, but there he goes. Down the inside is Tom Roberts. And this waiting game by Stephen Vassell is now starting to come back at him, because down the inside, Tom Roberts goes. Vassell still the outside, seemingly hanging on, but will need to send it down the inside. Does he have enough track space to do so? Will need to force the Ferrari men wide, and it looks like he has been able to do so. They still go side by side. We'll need to leave a little bit of space for the Ferrari man. He's trying to push his way through. Still side by side they go. Let's go on board with Tom Roberts so we can see it properly. Is he going to do a send into 9? He is going to try it. Side by side they go into 10. And he gets ahead of Stephen Vassell. That was a very bold move, and it's paid off for Tom Roberts.
It's just that foreshadowing we said before about how Vasso not being committed enough to the inside of Rowson has unfortunately paid him the price. And for Tom Roberts, moved himself up into 4th place and now looking to try take 3rd place away from Jensen Ralston. But here goes Vasso to the outside line, a lot more committed this time around for the Red Bull, but it's been forced wide. Flashbacks of Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen just the other way round, and look at that, Vasso from 5th down to 7th. Ariane Sanger now looking for the move on Tom Roberts. Look how robust that defence is from the Ferrari driver. Vasso into the back as Ariane Sanger, and Lucas Beisner is now side by side with the Red Bull. The two sister teams going side by side into turn 6. And Lucas Beisner comes out on top for now, but Vasso now looking to the inside into turn 7. It was a late lunge, and unfortunately has been into the side of Lucas Beisner. That will now rule him out of contention. Oliver Knott starts the 33rd lap of this Grand Prix as the track keeps getting drier. He's got that 4.1 second advantage over Tim Tornimo. Now it's been a superb drive from the Aston Martin man. And Jensen Ralston, thanks to all that squabbling, he now has a bit of breathing room behind. 6/10 is the gap between him and Tom Roberts. You'll see a very interesting battle unfold within the next 3 laps.
Yeah, let's in the meantime look at all the position changes we've seen so far. So Oliver Knott started in P2, he's now leading the race. His strategy has been on point, switching under safety cars to the intermediates, caught everyone off guard, but he managed to get the strategy down to the wire. Perfectly done by him. Tim Tornimo followed him, he's up 5 places in 2nd, and Ralston started 11th, is now in 3rd. Roberts up 15, Sanga's up 13 places, Beisner down by 2, Vasso up 5, then it's Gottschalk, Kuriau and Piasecki down 5, 4 and 4 respectively, lead up by 2, Balandalecki's up by 8, he's dropped down a little bit in those changing weather conditions, JSC has dropped 5, Tom 97 has stayed put where he was, Alessandro Finn and Louis Welch just flipped coins, and Dagmar is down 8 places all the way through. We have now 2 laps to go. Oliver Knott still leading the race. He's got a commanding lead over Tim Tornimo, 4.7 seconds. Don't think he has to worry much. So we're going to go right back into the fight where it's going to matter for moles. That is the fight for P3. It's now down to 4 drivers, Ralston, Roberts, Sanger and Beisner, with Vasso out of contention, 2.3 seconds behind.
Yeah, Vasso unfortunately out of that contention as we start the penultimate tour of this Austrian Grand Prix, and just look how dry that track is getting. It's going to be so difficult for these drivers to keep those cars on the road. And that dry line really starting to form now as there is Ariane Sanger to the inside of Lucas Beisner. Is he going to hold on to that 5th place as Beisner has a slide? This is where the track is going to be oh so difficult. And this is where real driver skill will show. You're basically driving on a dry track at this point, and you've got to just try and hold on to overheating intermediate tyres. As the rear of the car steps out, you've got to try and correct it. And really, in this race, you've just got to be able to hold on at these dear moments. And it's all about this driver's skill. Oliver Knott has gained about 6/10 in the final 2 corners on Tim Tornimo, but we're about to cross the line for the final lap of this Grand Prix. It's been a superb drive from Oliver Knott up in front, but what's going to happen between Tom Roberts and Jensen Ralston? The Mercedes driver is under abundance of pressure from Tom Roberts, who's trying to make it 2 Scuderia Ferraris onto that podium here in Spielberg. He's looking to the inside line. Is he going to be committed enough to go for it? He's into the back of the Mercedes as the Ferrari tries to get the drive now out of the corner. Is it going to be enough for Tom Roberts to snatch that 3rd place away from Ralston? The Mercedes defends to the inside. Roberts finds a gap. He sends it to the inside line. Tom Roberts with a late lunge is able to put it off, or is he? Ralston still fighting back into turn 6. He has to be committed. He needs to keep his nose in if he wants to take this position. A slide from Roberts might just make it all go away as Oliver Knott at the front of the field. He's weathered a storm. It's been domination in the wet from the Aston Martin man, and Tom Roberts is going to try and just lead through this train through the final 2 corners. Ralston into the back of him. He's going to be home dry, is Tom Roberts. A nice run out the final corner. He snatches 3rd in the dying moments from Jensen Ralston, but all eyes, the attention should go to the Aston Martin man of Oliver Knott. He weathered that storm beautifully. He knew what the decision was meant to be called when the safety car came out, and he never looked back since. Oliver Knott wins round 5 here in Spielberg, and what a drive from the green machine.
What a strategy call indeed from Oliver Nott. Had a great qualifying session, was hoping to be on pole position after he made a little bit of a mistake in that final run, but in the race, the perfect strategy allows him to take what could arguably be the perfect win here in round 5. Great work by the Aston Martin driver, and that puts him into that fight for the championship with 4 races to go. Second place goes to Tim Turnimo. He slashes down that gap significantly onto still championship leader Louis Welch. Then Tom Roberts in P3, great drive in the final lap from 19th to P3, great recovery drive all the way through. Then it's Rowson followed by Sanga, who picks up another extra point for fastest lap, 5th place for his debut drive. And then it's Beisner, Vassel, Curiel still finishing in P8, picking up some well-deserved points. I have Gottschalk and Piasecki. Outside of points, we find lead Alekis, Tom 97, your championship leader Louis Welch, JST, Alessandro Finn, Patrick Dagmeier, and the 3 drivers that did not finish, and Ron Raminguez, Sasha Neeb, and Bogdan Moldovan. But Max, really, what everyone will be talking about is not only that safety car, but that exit, the DNF of Aaron Raminguez.
Oh, it's just, I would say, just sheer embarrassment there for Ramirez. He will not look back on that one fondly, and that, unfortunately for him, it just sums up his season, really, doesn't it? That one moment there, rapid in qualifying, it just all goes away from him in the race. So I just feel so sorry for him for that to happen, but it's his own mistake and he's got to have to live with it now. And what could have been an opportunity for some big points maybe is just all gone away from him.
It has sadly gone all away from him. He's done so well in qualifying sessions, and this time out, where we mentioned before it was not really to a driving mistake of his own, this time out it definitely was warming up the tires, trying to warm up the tires a little bit too much in the wet on those degraded hards, and into turn 9. Just before turn 9 he lost it, put it straight into the wall, and that was exit for him, and likely also for his championship hopes, as he's now too far behind to really make a bid for that title. I think next week we will see that we will have about 4, maybe 5 drivers that are still realistically in that fight when we head to Silverstone. But for Austria, a very eventful race. I love seeing qualifying all the way through in the intermediates, but that was a cracking race.
It certainly was. It was a brilliant race, and of course next week, unfortunately we don't head to Silverstone, Myth. We got a break week next week.
Oh, we got break week then 2 weeks, but the next race indeed is Silverstone. That is right.
The next race is Silverstone. Of course, Myth did get that part right, but yeah, unfortunately for us, if you can say so, there is a break week next week. So that will just bring the action down a little bit and just now allow the drivers to have that week out. Maybe for the likes of Ramirez, it could be needed just to focus on that race prep a little bit more. But oh wow, what a race that was, and what a way to go to the week break. Sorry, with the championship lead now on if I can speak English, that is, after a chaotic race. It's made my mind go to mush. To mere points now in that championship.
Exactly, but we will have some drivers to talk to all about that hectic race that we've just had. Looks like Tim Turnimo and Oliver Nott are in the waiting room, so we're quickly going to go over to our driver interview screen, and then we're first going to talk to Tim Turnimo. So there we go then, the Ferrari driver, one of the 2 Ferrari drivers ending up on the podium in P2. Great race all the way throughout. Tim Turnimo, P2 for you.
Yep, feels really nice.
I think we've had quite the race all the way throughout, but I think the key moment in this race for you was the safety car where you decided to opt for the intermediates. Was that the strategy you were gunning for already, or did you follow what our race winner Oliver Nott decided to do?
So I was thinking, we obviously knew the rain was coming, and when the safety car came out, me and my engineer, we thought it was pretty obvious to pit for Inters, and then we just went for it. We saw that everyone else was on dry tires, but obviously we had the telemetry, and it started raining under safety car. So I think it was just a big gamble with me and Oliver both doing the correct strat.
Well, it indeed was a bit of a gamble, but with the safety car lasting long enough, that allowed you to, well, get into the optimal window, and it just started to rain when the safety car started to end. Then, of course, it became clear that it was going to be a fight between you and Oliver Knott. Was there any moment where you thought, I can still go for the race win here, or were you happy to settle for second?
I think when we had driven a few laps, I know I went the gap from like 2 seconds down to 1.6. I was thinking if he can make a mistake or get a penalty, I think it's definitely race on. Um, but then he started pulling away. So after he got 3 seconds gap on me, I just decided to keep it safe and drive to the line and hope for a mistake from his end.
Well, with all that hectic driving all the way through, you've had quite the run so far. You started your run 3 races ago with a 3rd place in Belgium, and last week out you got a P2, and this week you also got a provisional P2. If the results stay as they are, you're going to go to 34 points, meaning you're only 6 points off championship leader Louis Welch. Is it anything you were hoping for when you headed into the season?
I mean, being promoted from F4, I was just looking to score a couple of, P6s, some solid points. But then I realized in Brazil I had some decent pace. Unfortunately, I got affected by a crash ahead, and then from there on, I knew what I could do and kept my race clean, and I ended up on the podium all the times.
All right, that is lovely to hear. Moving it over to Max, any questions that you have for Tim?
Yeah, one from me, Tim. Of course, we have the break week next week, but then we head to Silverstone. You confident around there? You feeling good around the around Silverstone?
Um, Silverstone is probably one of my weaker tracks, like probably the weakest, if anything. But I can always hope. I do seem to have race pace and doing the correct strat at every track. So I'll do some practice and see where we end up. Because now, being so close to Louis Welch, I'm definitely gonna put some effort in to try and claim the championship.
All right, that sounds great. Well, thank you very much for joining us here in the interview box. Congratulations on your P2, and with 4 races still to go, hopefully we will see you here in the interview box once more.
Yep, I hope so as well.
All right, see you soon.
Yep.
And then let's gear up for his teammate, the other Ferrari man who started in P19 and managed to still get on the podium. Let's hear from Tom Roberts. So here we have him then, as I just mentioned, starting in P19, perhaps not the qualifying he was hoping for, but the race could be everything he would potentially be hoping for. A podium still all the way at the end. Tom Roberts comes home in P3.
Yeah, not bad. I think I might end up in the steward's room, but I've got P3 for now. Could have P3 after. But yeah, happy with that after the safety car basically saved my race.
Yeah, the safety car definitely saved your race. Of course, there was an incident a little bit earlier on, which I believe was with Sasha Neeb, and it also seemed to involve championship leader Louis Welch. The only thing we could see is that you and Louis lost both front wing end plates. What happened there?
Yeah, so I was literally like 9/10 back before turn 3, and as I got to the end of the braking zone, the car in front of me was just stopped, and he'd already hit Louis, and so I hit him. It was just a little like chain reaction of people going slow into the hairpin that I couldn't avoid. So yeah, I already had damage because of Bogdan spinning in front of me, but that just made it way worse. So I completely dropped off the train, but the safety car then came out,
Yeah,
which was nice.
that's when the safety car came out. You made the decision for the intermediates. We already heard from your teammate that it seemed like the obvious call to go for the intermediates, yet a lot of drivers didn't do so. Did that also surprise you that almost nobody went in for intermediates?
It didn't surprise me because it was still completely dry and it was still saying 5 minutes till the rain. So like it could have been 5 minutes after the safety car came in, and then the inters are completely finished that have been driving on the dry track. But when it started raining, like it started raining right after the pit entry, so that was super lucky for me. because I'd already committed to the Inters. And I was more surprised when I heard that there was a guy, it was Oliver in P4 and Tim in like P7 on Inters. I didn't think they'd risk it. I was hoping that I could be in like for a shot of the win because of this strat call, but yeah, it was a tough one. And luckily it got really wet really quickly, so the soft into the dries were already terrible on the restart.
Yeah, and then of course after the safety car you ended up in a fight with 4 other drivers, the fight for P3 realistically, and where it didn't seem like you were able to get up into P3 until the final 1 or 2 laps. You did manage to get there in the end. How did you get through those final few laps?
It was quite hectic, to be honest. Steven was lagging a lot, so he just punted me off like with the lag. I'm pretty sure it was, and so I couldn't get past him. So I went from instead of being P4, I was P5, and then going for the overtake again on Steven. Like the kick sent it and made it 3 wide and completely shoved me off. So I got back down to 7th or something, and just gradually got back past everyone because I was on quite a high wing. It was my dry setup, but it was quite a high wing compared to others. So yeah, I managed to overtake them all. Just on having better traction, I guess.
Well, if the results stay as they are, prior to this race, you were on 16 points. If you get that P3, you'll be on 26 points, meaning you're only 14 points away from championship leader Louis Welch with 4 races to go. Did you ever think you would be in the championship fight?
Before round 1, no. After round 1, yes, I hoped I would be, but Brazil went terribly. Brazil, I had issues with my headset mid-race, so Spa, I've always been terrible at Spa, but then China completely fumbled the win after getting pole. So realistically, I hoped I'd be closer, but I'm definitely going to still try and win from here. Well, depending if I keep P3 or not.
Well, the championship fight definitely seems to be on for you. Moving on to you, Max, any questions that you have for Tom?
Yeah, one from me, Tom. Of course, Smith actually pinched one of my questions about the championship, but of course we got Silverstone next week. Not next week, sorry, the week after. You feeling confident around there? You feeling like you could put in a good shift around Silverstone?
Yeah, hopefully I do quite like Silverstone. It's my home track. Although I will have to work on my quali pace because I haven't driven Silverstone in quite a few months. But hopefully I will, well, get another podium.
Yeah, hopefully you do, and hopefully we see you back in the comms box. And I mean, what we've seen so far this season is quali pace isn't everything, so don't stress too much about that, Tom. But of course, well done this evening, and yeah, a brilliant drive from yourself to make your way up the order.
Thanks, guys.
All right, congratulations again, and perhaps see you soon.
See ya.
Alright, that leaves us with one more man as we've interviewed both of the Ferrari teammates. That means we should speak to the man that won the race here. Started on P2 before making his way up the order. Went for a daring move under the safety car situation, which turned out to be the right call. Oliver Nutt was your race winner. Let's move him in. And there we have him, our race winner after a qualifying session that perhaps did not fully go his way despite getting a P2. The great call that he made during the safety car session allowed him to get that race win in the end. A comfortable race win, leaving the Ferraris in the dust. The first race win this season for Oliver Nutt.
Yes, thank you very much. A good race. I've had a really bad season so far. So to finally get a good race like this it's good. It's pretty uplifting, and yeah, I mean, hopefully I can continue it on for the next couple of races because I feel like I can challenge the top. I've had really bad races, so I've not been able to do that.
Well, based on the 16 points that you get tonight, you'll be 19 points away from your championship leader with 4 races to go. So hope's definitely not all are lost just yet.
Yeah, I mean, I probably won't win the championship. Let's be honest, but I mean, might as well try. But yeah, I just keep on putting good results in and just go from there, really.
Well, let's first go back to the race that we had tonight, the race that you managed to win. First, your qualifying session. The track was improving quite a bit. We improved by more than 2 seconds all the way throughout the session. We saw you mentioning in the Discord chat that you had a little bit of a moment in your final quali run. Was there a pole on the cards for you, or was Ramingas just a little bit too quick?
Yeah, I lost 2 temps in turn 9, and I think Aaron only got me by less than a temp. So if I didn't make the mistake in turn 9, I would have got a pole where I was really comfortable in quali as well, and I was like P1 pretty much most of my runs, and then that one mistake at the end just lost it all, which is a bit annoying. But yeah, it doesn't matter because obviously I got P1 in the race. So I mean, yeah. Do you know what happened to Aaron, by the way? Did he drop it?
Yes, we saw it on the race restart after the safety car just before turn 9. He went on the power just a little bit too much, lost control, and sadly went into the wall, so that cost him his race. But just before that, we saw during the safety car, we expected most drivers to go for a pit stop, and then we saw you out of 1 of 4 drivers to stop for the intermediates. Was that the obvious call, or was it a little bit of a gamble?
So I didn't want to, but my engineer said just do it, and I didn't trust him, but I did. I boxed, and obviously it ended up being the right thing because it started raining like the safety car came in, and then by the safety car came in, it was water on the track already, and I was P1, and I gapped him by 9 temps in turn 1, so I knew that was the right decision, 100%, and yeah, just happy that I went for the inters.
It definitely was the perfect call that he made all the way throughout. And then we saw in the laps after the safety car that the gap between you and Tim Tornimo stayed around the 1.8 mark. And then later on down the line, it went up to almost 5 seconds. So it seemed like you were quite comfortable there after the safety car.
Yeah, I was struggling a lot at the start, but then I found a rhythm, I guess. And I pulled 1 lap and I just kept on pulling a gap, and then yeah, I ended up 5.7 seconds ahead, which yeah, it's not that bad. So yeah, I'm really happy with it.
And now, of course, in the season, we still have 4 races to go. Which of those races are you looking forward to the most?
Let me have a look at the calendar. What races have we got next? We've got Britain. That'll hopefully will be decent for me as well. Singapore will be shocking. Mexico, I don't know, and Abu Dhabi. Yeah, I think Britain will be the best, and then the last 3 are kind of just not very good for me.
All right, fair enough. Then moving over to Max, any questions that you have for a race winner?
Yeah, just one from me, Oliver. Just overall, a really impressive drive from yourself. Just as you saw that gap from Tim, just slowly getting further and further away. Did you just become a bit more relaxed, and did you just start maybe taking a bit more caution through some of the corners just to make sure you don't pick up any penalties?
Yeah, honestly, I think it was just that. I wasn't taking caution. I was honestly just driving the same each lap. I was just pushing, and I saw the gap, and I was like, okay, finally, but not finally, but like I was actually making a gap. Like I can gap, and then I did, and I was just driving, and I gapped, and I was just, yeah, I don't know, just gave me a lot of confidence. Really, that's it. Just more confidence as the gap grew bigger and bigger and bigger, and I could just relax and just be like, okay, I've got this. Just hope for no safety cars, and there were no safety cars, so really happy with that as well.
Oh yeah, congratulations on that race victory. A stunning drive from yourself, and yeah, a sheer strategic masterclass, as you can say.
Yep, definitely. Thank you.
Well, a great shout out to your engineer as well, but of course you had to do it on the track, and you definitely did deliver your first race win of season 39. So once more, congratulations for you on that. That is also going to conclude our interviews for tonight and our broadcast all the way through. So it was good to be back here in Austria. Great race with a lot of intermediate drives in the wet. Eventually, Oliver not managed to prevail in that race and put himself in a potential championship fight, only 19 points away. As for me, that was it. Max, any final words from you before we tune out to the 1 week break that we have before resuming in 2 weeks at Silverstone?
I mean, just thank you everybody for tuning in this evening. It's been an absolute pleasure, and what a race. And, yeah, make sure you tune in 8 p.m. 2 weeks time for the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. More fireworks are going to happen, and we now have a very interesting championship challenge on our hands. So make sure you tune in to not miss out on what should be very great, very brilliant race at the home of Formula One.
Indeed, we will resume for the final 4 races in April, taking Silverstone by storm as we will now head out. Thank you so much for tuning in, and see you again in 2 weeks' time. Good night.